Now, I said earlier that noise is anything that interferes with the accurate transmission of a message between a sender and a receiver, and the reality is there are 4 types of noise. There's internal noise, there's external noise, there's emotional noise, and there's cultural noise. Internal noise emanates from within us, and the best example I can give you of internal noise, and I think we can all relate to this, is if we have something on our mind, but we're supposed to have a conversation with somebody about something that's not what's on our mind. Everybody in here has dealt with that probably numerous times, and the reality is that it's hard to connect with and it's hard to listen to someone if you have something on your mind and they want to talk about something very different. That's an example of internal noise. If Lee and I are having that conversation and I have something on my mind and she has something of significance she wants to have a conversation about, it's going to be difficult for me to hear, understand, and really connect with her in that particular instance. So that's internal noise. External noise is noise that happens outside of us. And as meeting planners, anybody here ever planned a meeting, worked very hard, dotted every I, crossed every T, and when you got to the place, what you didn't realize that they were having construction across the street? Anybody ever had that happen? And you could hear the construction while you were in your meeting? Well, if that's ever happened to you, that's external noise. It's noise that emanates from somewhere else that gets in the way of your ability to actually hear and articulate those messages back and forth. Emotional noise is a form of internal noise. It's a specific form of internal noise, and what's significant about it is that it's noise because it raises our emotional level. It has an impact on us in some way emotionally, and I'm going to give you 2 very simple examples, again, that I suspect everybody can relate to. Raise your hand if you've ever had a conversation with somebody that you don't particularly like. Virtually everyone. How easy was it to listen to them, to understand where they were coming from, and to genuinely want to be in a conversation with them? It was probably pretty hard to do. That's noise. That's a good example of emotional noise because those feelings you have, those negative feelings that you have, get in the way of your ability to communicate and connect with that person effectively. Another example is, how many people have ever had a conversation about a topic they didn't particularly want to talk about? Again, almost all of us do that. That's another form of emotional noise because the difficulty there isn't the person you're having the conversation with. It's the topic of that conversation, and because you don't necessarily want to be a part of that conversation, you don't necessarily want to have any dialogue about that particular topic, you don't necessarily want to be in that interaction because of that topic, it gets in the way of your ability to accurately transmit message and build relationships. Making sense so far? Internal, external, emotional noise. The last form of noise is cultural noise, and that's the form of noise we're going to focus our conversation around. Cultural noise is grounded in our differences, and we have many, many different ways in which we can be different. So, for example, we can be different based on race and ethnicity. We can be different based on gender. We can be different based on age. One of my favorite topics is to talk about the differences between baby boomers and millennials. We could have a wonderful conversation about that all day. We could be different based on our positions in an organization, management, non-management, things of that nature. We can be different because of our political affiliations. We can be different because of our religiosity or spiritual dimensions. We can be different in a lot of ways, and those differences can interfere with our ability to effectively connect with others. What I call the most powerful noise, though, which is a form of cultural noise, is unconscious bias. And the reason I call unconscious bias the most powerful form of noise is that unconscious bias can have a negative impact. It can be noise. It can have a negative impact on our ability to connect with one another. It can have a negative impact on the quality and productivity of our work. And it can do all that without our realizing it. It can be grounded in our differences, but it manifests itself in ways that we don't typically understand, in ways that we don't typically realize. Now, by definition, unconscious bias refers to our attitudes, it refers to our prejudices, and it refers to our stereotypes that have an impact on both our thinking and our behavior, but it does so in ways we don't realize. It has an impact on our thinking and behavior, but it does so in a way that is invisible to us.